On May 18th, 1972, the whole world was shocked when Buddha smiled. Again, on another May 11th, 1998, when India displayed its Shakti, the geopolitics of South Asia felt the tremor. Yes, we are discussing the nuclear test conducted by India, even though the first nuclear explosion test by India was conducted in 1974. The inception of the Indian nuclear research program was started before the country's independence and has never been very far behind the rich countries in the field of nuclear science. The history of nuclear research began with a letter sent to the Sir Dorab Tata Trust by Dr. Homi J. Bhabha, requesting to start a research institute for fundamental research. The trust approved the proposal in April 1945, and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research began its operation in Bangalore in June 1945, with Dr. Bhabha as its director. Later, it was moved to Bombay and officially inaugurated on December 19, 1945. When India attained independence, the government passed the Atomic Energy Act of 1948 and established the Atomic Energy Commission with the Indian Ministry of Natural Resources and Scientific Research. The AEC consisted of 3 members, Dr. Bhabha, Dr. K.S. Krishnan, and Dr. S.S. Patnagar. The primary mission of AEC was the formulation of the atomic energy policy. In August 1950, Indian Rare Earths Limited was formed to extract and process rare earth minerals. However, the history of rare earth extraction dates back to 1909. In 1909, German chemist C.W. Schomburg discovered the presence of monazite deposits in the sands of Travancore, a princely state. Thus, the world realized that Travancore was home to one of the world's largest monazite deposits. The first report on uranium was documented in the records of the Geological Survey of India, dated 1913, from a pegmatite rock in the Gaya district. In 1954, the AEET, or Atomic Energy Establishment at Trombay, was created. This decision laid a path for establishing a nuclear weapons capability and has been referred to as Indian Los Alamos. Later, this AEET was renamed BARC, and AEET received all scientific initiatives from TIFR. Even though India preferred nuclear research for peace and always believed in the policy of atoms for peace, India was forced to create its own nuclear weapons due to geopolitical pressure. After Jawaharlal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri became the Prime Minister of India. He was known for his views against nuclear weapons, but during a Congress committee meeting in Guntur in November 1964, Mr. Shastri made a bold statement. Alignment with those who also have bombs would result in the loss of India's economic and political independence. So, to counter nuclear power is to develop its own nuclear weapons. Another major incident happened in 1965. In April 1965, Pakistan attacked the vast desert salt marsh region of Rann of Kutch. In June 1965, Indian Ambassador B.K. Nehru informed U.S. Secretary of State Mr. Dean Rusk that the Indian government was running out of patience against President Ayub Khan's military misadventures. He argued that the Johnson administration should control Ayub Khan. But on August 5th to 6th, 1965, Pakistan launched Operation Gibraltar, and the Pakistan Army entered Kashmir. In response to the aggression, Mr. Shastri gave orders to the Indian Army to retaliate, and the Indian Army, during the war, pushed far enough into Pakistan's Punjab. At last, the war ended through a UN-mandated ceasefire. By the time India taught Pakistan a good lesson, the war also created 2 circumstances to force India to speed up its nuclear weapons program. The first one was Pakistan got China's support. The second was a statement from Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, then Pakistan's foreign minister. In an interview given to the Manchester Guardian, He said, "If India builds the bomb, we will eat grass or leaves, even go hungry, but we will get one of our own." Within a year of these incidents, two untimely deaths shook India. PM Shastri and Dr. Homi Bhabha both died within a span of less than 2 weeks in January 1966. The next PM was Mrs. Indira Gandhi. Due to various reasons, including financial constraints, the test did not take place until 1974. At last, in 1972, the Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, agreed to have a focused discussion about a nuclear test. Many MPs raised questions, and a group of MPs from her party, led by Mr. Krishan Kant, started to push for a nuclear test. Now, it's time to explore what a peaceful nuclear explosion is and what the Plowshare Project is. You may wonder how a nuclear explosion can be termed as peaceful. The Peaceful Explosions or Plowshare Project means using nuclear explosions for peaceful purposes like excavation of canals, mining low-grade minerals, etc. This idea was first proposed in the United States in 1957 and was officially terminated by 1970. This program was formally terminated in 1970. This program in the USA was known as the Plowshare Program and took its name from the Bible, Isaiah 2:4. They will beat their sword into plowshare. The USA and the USSR are the only countries to have taken a significant interest in the peaceful explosions. By 1971, the US had conducted 14 peaceful nuclear explosions, and the USSR had conducted 17 peaceful explosions. On May 17, 1970, then chairman of AEC, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, announced that India would not develop nuclear weapons, but would keep the option of underground, peaceful nuclear explosions. In October 1972, after much discussion, PM Mrs. Gandhi gave the go-ahead sign to the scientist and created a steering group composed of P.N. Haksar, the Prime Minister's principal secretary, P.N. Dar, the cabinet secretary, B.D. Nagachadhuri, Homi Sethna, Raja Ramana, P.K. Iyengar, and R. Chidambaram. After much discussion and research, the test date was fixed on May 18, 1974. After the go-ahead signal, the team behind the bomb started working. This team included eminent persons like Anil Kakadkar, S.K. Sikka, and P.R. Roy. The next problem was to find a suitable test site. The answer to this question was the Pokhran test range in Jaisalmer, Rajasthan. Now, to avoid further nuclear contamination, the test site should not show any presence of water at least 100 meters down. This will prevent radioactive contamination of water. So the team chose an abandoned well. After fixing the site, the team needed a dry, secure L-shaped shaft to place the nuclear device. The duty was given to 61 engineers in the Indian Army Regiment. Initially, they refused because they were inexperienced in digging the L-shaft for the seismic experiments. Later, the Prime Minister issued instructions to the Chief of the Army Staff, and G.G. Bewar, then the Chief of the Army Staff of the Indian Army, gave instructions to the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel P.P. Subherwal. A dry well collapsed in November 1973, leading to 1 death, and personnel were injured. In January 1974, they found an aquifer that filled the shaft with water, so the well became unusable. This delayed the explosion, and another shaft was excavated for the test. The neutron trigger was developed by the radioisotope group of BARC or BARC, and was ready only in May 1974. Now everything was ready, and the time was fixed to 8 a.m. on May 18, 1974. The team used implosion to trigger a chain reaction, and the plutonium came from the CIRUS, or CIRUS reactor. A conventional implosion in the 1,400-kilogram device would initiate a reaction in beryllium and polonium, separated by a barrier. which would cause plutonium to explode. The device was similar to that of the one dropped on Hiroshima, while its implosion design was modeled on Nagasaki's Fat Man. At 8:05 a.m., Indian Standard Time, PR Dastidar pressed the button to initiate the neutron trigger. A faulty reading on a voltage indicator caused the 5-minute delay. The explosion released energy, resulting in a mound of elevated Earth visible from the control point. The dome of Earth then fell, creating a crater on the test site. After the successful test, Dr. Raja Ramana informed the Prime Minister, "The Buddha is smiling." The test date was on Buddha Purnima, so the team used the code name Smiling Buddha. An underground peaceful nuclear explosion will create a shockwave near the point of detonation. This explosion creates a shockwave that vaporizes, melts, plastically deforms, and fractures the surrounding rocks, and then degenerates into elastic waves. Interestingly, only a small portion of the released energy is converted into seismic waves, and the ratio of elastic wave energy to total energy is known as seismic efficiency. During those days, India didn't prepare serious efforts to record the seismic shock without flaws. This lack of reliable data led to years of debate about the yield of the test explosion. After 8 months, Dr. Ramana and Dr. Chidambaram presented a yield estimate of 12 kilotons to the IAEA, or International Atomic Energy Agency, in Vienna. Later, analysis claimed that the real yield will be between 8 to 12 kilotons. If we compare this yield with other test results like the French test, the yield was very low. However, we should note a point. It was not a weapon test, but rather a technology demonstration to test the peaceful nuclear explosion. The yield French test in 1962 was 52 kilotons, and their test in 1965 resulted in 120 kilotons. American test in 1970 resulted in 220 kilotons, and the 1971 test by the USSR created a yield of 500 kilotons. Chinese thermonuclear test in November 1974 yielded 200 kilotons. In 1964, on All India Radio, Dr. Bhabha said, "A 10-kiloton nuclear explosion, which is equal to 10,000 tons TNT explosion, would cost $350,000 for India." According to official estimates, the cost was $400,000, or 3.2 million rupees. These estimates excluded the cost of training, technical preparations, cost of medical care, site cleanup services, and waste management. Later, others came with realistic figures. Seshagiri calculated the project's cost, which was $220 million. A U.S. NATO mission report from June 1974 estimated the cost to be $10 million, an amount similar to Dr. Bhabha had given in 1965. The real figure is still unknown. When the news broke, many suggestions and questions arose. The first one was regarding the opacity of the total cost at the time of economic crisis. Some claimed that the development funds were used to fund this mission. The May edition of Economic and Political Weekly wrote an editorial under the heading, "On the Threshold of Economic Chaos," and criticized the explosion. A newspaper editorial suggested using mini peaceful explosions to divert the course of rivers, to prevent floods and alter rocks, to stop earthquakes. Many countries expressed their desire to join India for information and training. The Shah of Iran was an example. During his visit to India in October 1974, he inquired about the possibility. On May 28, 1974, the Prime Minister responded to all questions. India is a nuclear country, not a nuclear weapon country. She assured the peaceful intentions of India to the world. After 7 months, on 22 December 1974, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi visited the site with Homi Setna, K.C. Pant, Lieutenant Colonel Subherwal, and J.R.D. Tata. Now you may think, what was the role of J.R.D. Tata? A businessman? He was not only a businessman, but also a visionary member of AECI since 1962. He had also been a member of the board for research on atomic energy that first met in May 1946 in Bombay House. If we look into the legality, India did an underground nuclear explosion, so the test didn't violate the PTBT or the Partial Test Ban Treaty. The PTBT prohibits nuclear tests in the atmosphere, outer space, and on the seabed. Since the underground test was not covered, the treaty was not violated. Why underground was left behind? The intention was to prevent horizontal proliferation by making it difficult for new countries to test, while allowing vertical proliferation by declared nuclear countries. India was among the first batch of countries to sign PTBT when it was signed in Moscow in August 1963. This decision to sign PTBT drew considerable criticism from within the country. PM Nehru was criticized in Parliament for not insisting for a comprehensive ban. The government's answer was, this is a step towards producing an atmosphere of confidence for the ban to go further. After Indira Gandhi, the next prime minister was Mr. Morarji Desai. He soon declared his word against nuclear tests and bombs. This new policy forced the government to start a review of the operations of the DAE and the other prime ministers, after Morarji also kept the idea of nuclear tests on the shelf. In 1995, the government attempted a test, but due to the pressure from other countries like the USA, they abandoned the idea. But in 1998, India again tested a nuclear bomb. This time, it was a proper atomic bomb and not a peaceful one. When Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a politician who continuously raised his voice in favor of the nuclear power, became the Prime Minister of India, India conducted its nuclear test again under the code name Operation Sakti. Between 11th and 13th May 1998, India conducted 5 successful nuclear tests at the Pokhran Test Range in Rajasthan. When PM Atal Bihari Vajpayee announced the results, the whole world was shocked. The first 3 explosions occurred simultaneously at 3:45 p.m. on May 11, 1998, on the Alpha Test Range. To keep complete secrecy and avoid foreign satellites, India made the preparations without noise. But locals in the nearby village realized something big was going to happen when they saw truckloads and other vehicles. 2 hours before the explosion, the electricity and telephone had disconnected. Thus, the group maintained secrecy. The simultaneous tests include a 45-kiloton thermonuclear device, a 15-kiloton fission device, and a 0.2-kiloton subkiloton device. 2 more subkiloton devices were tested simultaneously on May 13th. Their yield was 0.5 and 0.3 kilotons. A 6th device was also made, but it was not fired. Each shaft was given a code name. The shaft, which was meant to hold thermonuclear devices, was named the White House. The second shaft was called the Taj Mahal. The shaft with the first subkiloton device was called Kumbha Karna. This time, the 58th Engineers Regiment was responsible for the excavation. To avoid spy satellites, they worked at night. The excavated sand was dumped in the shape of dune forms. This is to mimic the wind-aligned shape so that nobody will identify the new sand pile. The devices were placed on May 10th. 2 keys were used to unlock the countdown system. Each key was given to the representative of BARC and DRDO. Both representatives together unlocked the system. The Prototype International Data Center for verifying compliance with the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty identified Operation Shakti's seismic waves, but the 13th May, tests were not detected. It is believed that the present detection threshold may be above 1 kiloton for the Pokhran range, which is higher than the detection threshold recommended for international data centers. After the tests, world nations criticized India's move. Countries like the USA, Australia, South Korea, Japan, and China raised their voices against the nuclear test conducted by India. New Zealand even withdrew its High Commissioner to India. The Prime Minister of India said, "We have the capacity for a big bomb now. Ours will never be weapons of aggression." The strong words later changed into international sanctions. Initially, it affected trade and technology transfer. Later, sanctions were relaxed when India announced its nuclear policy with no first use, a credible minimum deterrent, no nuclear weapons against non-nuclear weapon states, and nuclear retaliation to a first strike will be massive and designed to inflict unacceptable damage. Thank you for watching our video. If you like our video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content. See you in the next video.